We give our first impressions of the all-new 2019 all-electric Kia Niro EV. We talk about the latest developments in the Honda CR-V engine oil dilution issue, and we answer audience questions, including what happened to the spare tires, next on Talking Cars. Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
And I'm John Lincove.
So we're going to jump right into some news. This is a topic that many of you have certainly reached out to us about, which is the dilution of oil in Honda CR-Vs with gas, manifested from anything as simple as people smelling fuel in the cabin to some drivability issues, stalling, stuttering, things like that. It was obviously uncommon for Honda to have, serious issues. We certainly saw it in our reliability. And Honda did react in that they're now repairing them. Took them a while, I will say. And it started with the cold weather states. It seemed to be, a cold weather issue, or they said it was. So Maine, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin were getting fixes. And then it started into other states. Our reliability saw it in warmer states as well. But the news is they're kind of giving owners a little bit of extra time, John, if you want to summarize.
Yeah, it even was something that reached into China at first, and there was a whole discussion that China had some kind of action, but it's not the same as a recall in the United States, and you can't say apples to apples. So like you said, 21 cold weather states, 239,000 vehicles are eligible for a fix. It covers...
This is the 1.5 liter turbo engine.
Oh, yes.
Well, yes.
To
To get to
clarify.
that.
Yes.
Yep. So it's the 1.5 liter turbo, which is a new engine for Honda. It applies to certain 2017 and 18 CR-Vs, also the 16 to 18 Civic.
Same engine.
So same engine.
Which our viewers asked us about.
Right, and that's the thing, a lot of people contacted us about it. We did get verbatims and comments from people who said that they were experiencing it foaming, the gas smell as well. It's good that they're finally doing something. You can't really give them a pat on the back for doing something, considering it was since last fall is when it really kind of blew up, and we have an episode about that.
Right.
Yeah. This is a big
But they're
issue.
extending the warranty.
They're going to extend the warranty. The repair involves new software for the engine transmission, oil change, possibly a replacement air conditioning control unit, extended warranty.
No mileage limit, which I thought was interesting.
Exactly.
6 years, but no mileage limit.
Right.
So certainly if you have those and you experience any of those symptoms, certainly take it in.
Yeah, and like you said, we saw in
fix.
warm weather, so it's obviously some kind of tolerance issue. It's not just cold.
Yeah, I think people are shocked. I mean, it's Honda, and they're known for reliability. Stuff like these little headaches, this can happen to any car company, even the most reliable car companies. It doesn't mean Honda's a bad car company now. This was kind of a new engine for them, and it's a little bit of a headache.
In particular, it can happen when it's new.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, new technology.
So, new technology. And there's some thoughts about whether it should. I mean, right now it is not a recall. Yeah. But if a car is stalling while it's running, John, I know certainly our policy folks have said some things about it.
Yeah, I mean, quote from our policy people, we're glad there's a free fix available, but vehicles are stalling, and some people have said that. They should have an official recall because it doesn't expire. A technical service bulletin, a free fix, we'll contact you, you come in the dealer, those types of things expire. Recall will be open forever.
Right.
Not a mileage limit, not a time limit as age of vehicle.
Right. Yeah. And as we were covering this, we did reach out to Honda, and they said the following. Abnormal oil dilution remains extremely rare, especially outside of extremely cold weather. In extreme and rare cases in the cold weather states where abnormal oil dilution has occurred prior to a vehicle receiving the software updates, this extension will provide extra time for any undetected engine damage to become apparent and be covered by the warranty. Even in our data, and it's a serious issue,
Very serious.
but it has been relatively rare for the CR-V. Right. And it made big news because it was Honda.
Yeah.
But it is rare. We have still maintained our recommendation on the car because it's not a ton of vehicles that has affected. But if it does affect you, certainly reach out.
And it's not to minimize it in the sense, it's important if it happens to you.
Right.
Any of these things are important if it happens to you.
It's a new car.
And you certainly understand that.
Yeah.
But as far as the recommendation goes, and like you said, the reliability, it is minor in the world of CRVs that were sold.
Right. So that leads me to kind of a little bit of our news in that because small SUVs are so incredibly popular, both new and used, we looked back to kind of make a small list of those that were particularly good in reliability, road test score. The idea being they could depreciate out, but still have plenty of life left in them because of their reliability record. So specifically 2016s, look at the show notes and it'll drive you back to our list. There's others obviously that work. This was kind of a small list. So Ryan, why don't you give us kind of your thoughts on anything that's on that small list?
So I took a look. The Mazda CX-5 is going to be the pick for me. It's the most fun to drive, and I think the interior's the nicest of them.
It feels the most luxurious.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's a nice, and it's a good looking car, I think, personally.
I certainly find in my personal life, I don't know if you guys get the same, like there's 4 cars that stand out, and they may not, the RAV4, the CX-5, the Forester, and the CRV. That is like the quad of people call, which one should I get? And truly, depending on what your personal preferences are, pick any of them.
You almost can't go wrong.
You almost can't go wrong with any of them. But John, did you have a particular one from that narrow list?
I don't have one from the narrow list because I've actually, and you get into the reliability issue. So it depends on what you want financially. It depends on what you want reliability. Maybe you want something else that has these positive attributes, and you're willing to go with an average reliability car. Nissan Rogue is an interesting little one. Not the most dynamic, continuously variable transmission doesn't necessarily mean enjoyment, but a roomy car. It works well for me. The 16 Honda CRV. Again, so it's before this recall. You're not getting the turbo. I mean, safe. Not the recall, but you're before the engine problem. Extended warranty. It's the final year of the design, so it means they worked out any headaches. They should have. And it's roomy. I just like the way Hondas drive a little more than other competing products. Not the CX-5. CX-5 is still more enjoyable. But I like the CRV.
Yeah, so refer to the list, take a look, see if it's something you might be interested in. So in keeping with the small SUVs, we have a new one here at the track, a little bit different. The 2019 Kia Niro EV, all-electric Kia Niro. Reporting 239 miles of range. We've talked about getting over that 200-mile mark to make it a practical vehicle. We had tested the hybrid Niro, 1.6-liter 4 hybrid, 43 miles per gallon. Ryan, did you get a chance to get into the Niro EV?
I did. So it's exciting, like you say, getting over this 200-mile hump is big. It's huge for me because I have anxiety when it comes to these things.
He has range anxiety.
And that's huge. It becomes a daily usable car, I think, because you're not terrified everywhere you go. You have to turn on the wipers or the headlights or something and watch the mileage disappear. But I was pleased with it. It kind of reminded me of the Hyundai Kona EV, which is a better version of the Kona, regular gas Kona, I thought. This is kind of in that same vein. It's quieter. It's got plenty of power. The Niro hybrid that we tested originally had that little bit revvy, grainy motor sound in there.
It takes all that
This
away.
is just a little more pleasant to drive. And the controls, it's got that dial shifter that's takes a little getting used to. But the controls, everything's pretty simple, and I like that. It's not it's not getting into like a Tesla where you have to learn this whole crazy screen. It's a normal car.
Most of their controls are quite simple.
It's user friendly. So.
Yeah. John?
I echo. I mean, at least the controller, for example, isn't some kind of weird monostable where it's I'll just do that. Where it springs back to the center, so you're never sure exactly what gear you're in.
Well, it does do that, and it's a dial.
But it identifies it, and you can't miss hit.
Right.
You're in reverse, drive, or park. You're not in a weird neutral or anything like that. I like the conventional control. I like conventional EVs. I like the Jaguar I-Pace for all of its ills more so than a Tesla Model 3. I personally am not a huge Tesla fan with the screen. When the screen goes bad, you can't do a single thing. HVAC and such. Yes, there's resets, but resets don't always work, as we know with phones, computers, etc. It's super quiet. It's quick. You sit up high. I do like it, but last night with the cold weather, hit the heater, 10 miles comes off immediately on your range. AC does the same thing. So
But at $239, it could maybe deal with that.
It's reasonable, I think. Yeah.
I also didn't. I wish they kept the traditional shifter that we had in the hybrid Niro.
Yeah.
It just one, I won't say gimmick, but it was just different enough that I didn't care for it. You have to look to make sure you're in that gear. I do think, to Ryan's point, it compensated. One of the things we didn't like about the hybrid was this lag that it had. The all-electric takes all of that away.
Yeah, it's seamless.
The only thing, and it was $47,000.
That took my breath away a little bit.
It took, just to qualify, the hybrid was 26.
It's a considerable jump.
Another 21, to me, yes, it is a better car.
Yeah.
Not worth $21,000 better.
So think of it in some ways.
Yeah.
If you buy it and you have a tax liability, you
Right.
get $7,500. Leasing, though, more and more leasing of these for a number of reasons. Technology you may not want to buy and be stuck into the technology as it fledgling industry that's advancing at a rapid rate. Rate, excuse me. So you lease it, and the dealer. So you lease it for 2 or 3 years, and the dealer adds that. They take the tax credit themselves, but they incorporate it into the depreciation. So now you have a pretty low cost.
Right.
Yes, you have to worry about 10,000, 12,000 miles or whatever a lease would be for you, but that's a possibility. Buying it outright, that's a lot of
That's a lot of
lots
money
of cheddar
for a relatively small SUV.
Right.
This whole, and we have a lot of EVs now. We have a lot more coming. Brought to mind a thought I was having is, I'm a person who likes EVs, but I like them to feel like they're not EVs, and I don't want them to sound funny. I don't want them to have brake regeneration, touchy brakes. I want them to be EVs, but as traditional as possible. Yeah. And I'd be interested to hear what certainly our audience thinks of. Do you want your EV to be EV-ish,
right,
or not? Do you want the ones I like the best? Like you said, the Kona are the most traditional in operation. Right. So I don't like when they change the shifter. I want it all traditional.
Just leave it alone.
I found the brakes a little weird when it was cold.
Right.
There was a bite, and all of a sudden it would really grab.
Yeah.
And then I would try to do that, and they warmed up.
Right.
The rotors, whatever the system was, and I couldn't replicate that during a drive. But then you park it, do it again.
Yeah.
Strange.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll be testing that, comparing it, of course, to its non-EV version. But talking about viewer feedback and audience feedback, we're going to move to some questions. We love them, we love them, we love them. We only have some texted ones this week. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Love the videos, love the text. So the first question is from Jose. Hi, guys. I'm a big fan of your show. Thank you, Jose. Vehicles seem to have a warning light for everything. However, drivers only become aware that a headlight or a brake light is out when a police officer stops them. Why don't government regulators focus on this critical safety issue? John, good point. Any thoughts for Jose?
Slow down, Jose. Don't give the police a reason to pull you over. No, look, some of it is, in my opinion, regulation creep or something like that. It adds costs. It doesn't help older vehicles. It's going to take a long time to get older vehicles out. Is this the key focus? I mean, I would personally think that if there's going to be a modification to the federal motor vehicle safety standards, it should be mandating a center head restraint,
right? Which
is not. And there's plenty of vehicles out there that are 2019s or 20s that don't have that.
Yep.
If you have a safety belt for that position, you think it's a seating position. I would say for Jose, maybe like we say, check your smoke detector every season change. Flip your mattress around every season change. Do these types of maintenance things. Have someone park the car in the garage or out in the parking space or wherever. Ask someone, if a kid, maybe make it a fun, like this is how you maintain and check.
Great
The
lesson.
car's parked.
Right.
Yep.
The car is parked. You turn it on, keep it in park. Just press on the brake pedal. Do you see anything, Timmy, Bobby, Sarah, whoever your child is? Oh yeah, it's not symmetrical. Only one's up. Great. Do it monthly. Do it quarterly. Do something like that. Mm-hmm. Should there be a standard? For an indicator, another system. If you're relying on an indicator and then there's a failure of the system, then you're it says it's unlit, but it's lit, or it doesn't. I think it's one of the lower it's a higher hanging fruit, me, and there's lower hanging fruit to address.
I think probably the redundancy. You have two. So at least
three.
If you've ever driven behind someone who doesn't have any brake lights,
well, that's
now you have three. You have the Kimsel,
crazy
the
right now.
high mounted and the two.
Right.
That's a crazy safety issue. But because you have two, I think actually the police pull you over almost as a courtesy because they know you don't know probably, and then they give you a time frame usually to fix it.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to me of like getting back to the basics. We talk about all these, automatic emergency braking and forward collision warning, which are all hugely beneficial, but brake lights and headlights are back to the basics and head restraints.
Yeah, beneficial, not to minimize it, but
Right.
there's other technologies that'll help.
Right. So thank you, Jose. Next question is from Eric. I think your truck ratings should be separated from cars, especially when comparing ride, quietness, and comfort. Most trucks are not expected to compete in comfort with cars. You separate electric and gas dryers. How about doing the same thing with cars and trucks? Rate trucks compared to other trucks. It would lift their scores and give truck buyers a better idea of quality. Ryan, thoughts for Eric?
So he's right. I mean, we don't expect most trucks to ride as well as a car or an SUV. Right. But if you're looking at our ratings and you see a car that has a 5 for ride, and now you have a truck that has a 5 for ride.
Which one's better?
Yeah. What's a 5? What's a 5? So.
It's a top score, but what does it mean, right?
We ran into this with tires. Back in the day, we used to rate all our tires or in separate. Every category was weighted separately. So we had an all-season tire that would get a 5 in that group for snow traction.
Right.
And then you'd have a snow
Compared
tire.
to those peers,
to the other snow tires or all-season tires.
Right.
And then you had a chart next to that with actual winter tires that obviously most of them get 5s because they're meant for that, right?
Yeah.
But people are looking at the chart going, why would I buy an all-season or a winter tire if this all-season tire gets a 5 for winter traction also? But it's only for that group.
Right.
It's not for we have to put it on this big universe of it's still comparable to other trucks, but you have to. I guess the resolution's smaller. You're looking at, but it's still you can still see the difference between the few trucks. That's why we do it.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story is even if they're showing up in different charts, they might actually still be on the same scale. Like the gas dryers, electric dryer thing. So that's why we do it.
A lot of stuff is on a universal scale, and I would argue two things for Eric. One, I think the rides of some of these trucks are comfortable.
They're getting better.
And I think I've shared. My husband drives this 2012 Frontier. It rides horribly, but new trucks, even new full-size pickups, they ride very, very well. So that, and they are used often like passenger cars.
Right.
They are not necessarily, and I know we've talked about, that they're loaded. Sometimes the ride settles down, but they're not often loaded. So interesting question from Eric. So that takes us to our next question from David. In poor visibility driving conditions, I get a message that my Subaru Legacy's eyesight system is inoperative. Are my non-camera based systems such as BSM, blind spot monitoring, and RCTA, rear cross traffic alert, still working? Are there any AEB, automatic emergency braking systems, that work in whiteout washout conditions? My son is going to college about 5 hours away, and while I love the Subaru, I'd like to have an alternate car to drive him when I know the visibility will be lousy.
So he's right. The systems are impacted by weather, and I would say it's you're not going to find a car right now, a vehicle, new or used, that's going to be infallible.
Right.
It's actually really good that they turn off because they don't become a crutch. They don't become a system where you set it and forget it, sort of like
right.
like we've seen as in commercials and such.
Right.
And 3M, for example, is a company that makes a number of products, but one of the things they're working on is a film that you would put over fenders to protect the radar units, and hopefully snow and ice would slide off of it. That way, it would, the systems would still work. But yeah, the short answer is no, there's not a vehicle. Advancements are coming fast and furious, but not quick enough. Right. So stop. Maybe use it 5 hours away, inclement weather, take a break. Take a coffee break. Have a self-imposed break where you clean the sensor off, because tell you what, ice and stuff blocks up the window.
Well, you wrote the story.
There's a great thing. There's a great piece on consumerreports.org that I wrote and spoke to some people about this. And camera washers and stuff to keep those clear. Right. But yeah, use it as a break. Stop. Take a rest break. Clean them off. At least you know that you're doing that. But rain can do it, let alone snow.
Right. It's unfortunate because sometimes when you need it the most, because you can't see,
Yeah.
they don't see
Right.
either. So I think that's the rule. If you can't see, they probably can't see either.
Exactly.
Camera or sometimes radar.
Yeah, so slow down.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a reminder. These are aids. You know,
Right.
this is you're still responsible for drive that vehicle safely.
Yeah, it is.
You know, these things are there to help you, but they, can have issues.
You know, and it also shows we're nowhere near self-driving cars.
It brings me right to that.
Let's be
Exactly.
honest.
Yeah.
We can self-drive in the good weather.
Right.
Only.
And they can't even self-drive. They worry about
I'm kidding.
themselves only.
Right.
Right.
But we're not there yet,
Yeah.
no matter what anyone's saying.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
The advantages are still real, though,
Yes.
regardless of,
Absolutely.
of the weather. So, last question is from Rob. I'm very interested in purchasing an Audi Q7, which has no spare tire, just an air compressor with a fix-a-flat canister. I certainly don't want to be stranded on the side of the highway until tow truck arrives to tow me to a tire shop should the fix-a-flat not work. Do you have any statistical information that would indicate that what the probability is of having a flat tire that is too severe for a fix-a-flat repair? Would you purchase a vehicle with no spare tire? What do you think, tire guy?
Oh man, inflator kits, they kill me. So to answer his first question, statistically, no, we don't have any data on that. From my personal experience, actually testing some of these kits,
Right.
There's a million different ways you can get a flat, okay? And there's a very good probability that these are not going to fix that, depending on the type of hole, what you ran over, if the object's still in the tire, if it came back out of the tire. If you hit you ruin a sidewall, you're done no matter what.
They don't work on sidewall, right?
Yeah. Would I purchase a vehicle without a spare tire? It would depend on the vehicle. A sports car, you kind of have to expect this. It's also not a car you're driving your family around in all the time. A big SUV like that, you're gonna really should have to consider that. And it's a very good thing that he's paying attention to that before he's purchasing this vehicle. Now, the brand new Q7 does have run flats as a base tire option, which I believe is the reason why you get that, the fix a flat canister and a jack. But you can also, people aren't going to probably do this, but you can buy a full-size spare and put it in the back, but you're taking up half of your luggage space. I mean, what's the point of that?
And share, why is the spare going away? What's the impetus to that we're not seeing spares anymore?
Yeah, it's as simple as weight. They're trying to make cars lighter for fuel economy because there's such pressure on the manufacturers to make better fuel economy numbers. And take out a 50, 60 pound, maybe 70 pound tire and wheel package out of the trunk, and you got a little bit of a advantage there. And then they put the inflator kit in there. It doesn't weigh obviously nearly as much, but there's a good chance you're not going to be able to patch the tire with one of those. I mean, there's cases where it will, but
Well, one of our coworkers, Jeff Bartlett, had that happen years ago with a Hyundai. So you're talking economy car, not going to have run flats.
Right.
Ripped the sidewall. He was stuck.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you're waiting, like he says. No
Yeah.
one wants to wait for the tow truck if you're on a trip or something.
And something like a Q7, you're looking 20, 21, 22-inch wheels.
Right,
Yeah.
now-
You're looking
Yep.
at performance tires.
Now replace those tires, right?
Now replace those. The run flat too, you're going to be able to find, the trouble is sometimes finding a run flat
yeah,
in a remote
there's
place.
Yeah, exactly.
So to your point too, I guess it matters where you think you're driving. If you're in a metropolitan area, you're probably going to have an Audi dealer or someone who can get to you quickly. If you're in a rural area, maybe not so much. You can be waiting a while.
Right, a very good thing though that he's paying attention to that going into it. We tell people that when you're buying a car, like check it out, see what tires come on the car.
A spare is not a given anymore.
Right, yeah, because it's not, and see what kind of tires come on there. They might be outrageous to replace in the first place. Never mind, hitting something in the road and having to replace one.
Are they hard to use, the kits?
The inflator kits?
Yeah.
No, but they're not. But they can be because sometimes you have to rotate the tire to get to if the wherever the hole is on the bottom, and you're trying to put the inflator stuff in there, the rubber might be held in a position where you can't plug it anyway, and it's not for everyone.
Not as simple. Not
Yeah.
as simple. So great question, David.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. If you're looking for information on any of the stuff we talked about, see the show notes, videos, questions, TalkingCars@iCloud.com. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.